Hello, good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Welcome one and all, wherever you are, whenever it is. My name is Paul. I'm also called Knickknack. I write Knickknacks All Peculiar, the world's most boringly repetitive blog. I talk about TV shows I watch, and occasionally talk about movies I've seen. And I also do the daily teaser quiz. I'll try and link to that and my tip jar in the corner there in case you want to go look at some quizzes, or B, you're impressed enough to, donate. Possibly not. In either case, please feel free to subscribe and hit like on this video. This particular video is actually going to be a TV review, and just so you know, over the past couple of weeks I've been watching the classic Doctor Who serial that is The Celestial Toymaker, and it's a nice, light, fluffy watch. Last night was Friday the 20th, which is when I watched episode 3 of the show, The Dancing Floor, and I wanted to tell you what I thought of the episode. Episode 3 of The Celestial Toymaker, The Dancing Floor, reminds us of the riddle that the Toymaker has given Stephen and Dodo in the previous episode. Hunt the key to fit the door that leads out to the dancing floor, then escape the rhythmic beat or forever tap your feet.
Quite.
Once through the door, the pair, played by Peter Purvis and Jackie Lane, find themselves not in a dance hall, but in a kitchen, one run by Mrs. Wiggs, Carmen Silvera, who is soon joined by Sergeant Rugg, Campbell Singer. The nursery characters have been promised lives, real lives, by the Toymaker, and being freed from his realm if they can get across the dancing floor before Stephen and Dodo. The only initial problem is that one of the two teams has to find the key to the door that leads to the floor. So, what did I think of this episode? I can hear you say it right now. Paul, what did you make of The Dancing Floor? I have to confess, in terms of tone, The Dancing Floor is much like The Celestial, The Toy Room, and A Hall of Dolls. All three are light, fluffy episodes that are designed to puzzle us rather than scare us, which the episodes of Doctor Who I grew up watching did. There is some seriously dark stuff in there. But by contrast, of course, this older episode is light, fluffy, whatever else you want to call it. It's got 10 minutes worth of Sergeant Rugg and Mrs. Wiggs, Singer and Silvera having a food fight, to give you an example. It's definitely light, fluffy and bordering on slapstick. And the solution to this week's puzzle, Stephen and Dodo swapping dancing dolls as partners for each other, it seemed obvious to me from the minute the characters walked into the dance room. So, light and fluffy, yes, but I think I might say more on that later. If I'm going to be honest, this episode has got me thinking of other things, not necessarily focusing on the plot. Sorry, my phone just beeped there. For one thing, the dancing floor made me realise that this serial reminded me vaguely of the Rocky Horror Show, the original stage musical, rather than its cinematic equivalent. Why? Simply because, not because the Toymaker is a countercultural icon, but simply because both the play and the serial reuse actors in different roles. In the original stage version of the Rocky Horror Show, the actor that plays Eddie in Act 1 usually plays Dr. Von Scott in Act 2. The actress who plays Magenta is the one who plays the usherette, who sings the introductory song at the play's start. That way you get 11 different parts played by 9 different actors, and the part can save a little money on wages bills. The dancing floor, in common with the play, reminded me that Singer, Silvera and Stevens play a third character each in this third episode, Sergeant Rugg, Mrs. Wigg and the kitchen boy. So that's one similarity I couldn't help but notice. Another, I've been watching the animated colour version of this story, as I do with all these classic reanimated Doctor Who stories. And in this colour version, or this animated version, When Stephen and Dodo first enter the ballroom, where they're supposed to be dancing with dolls, there's a stage area at the back of the room, complete with red curtains, that eventually is a landing place for the fake TARDIS. But it's a stage, a proscenium arch with red curtains, and it's something I usually associate with the works of David Lynch, even in his black and white stuff. Trust me, it makes sense if you may. But in the case of this particular story, it wasn't Lynch I was thinking of. It was The Giggle, the first of the 60th anniversary Doctor Who specials back in 2023. As that version of the Toymaker, played by Neil Patrick Harris, used a similar, if not identical, stage to torment the Doctor and Donna. He had proscenium arch with a lot of red curtains. Was that similarity deliberate? Did the respective TV and Blu-ray release dates see The Giggle influence the design work of the dancing floor? I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I honestly couldn't tell you. I just think it's a meaningful coincidence rather than any kind of coordinated decision on the part of two different production teams. C'est la vie. One last thing I was thinking was that I found the Campbell Singer and Carmen Silvera characters reminiscent of others. Singer's Sergeant Rugg put me in mind of Obadiah Hakeswell, a bullying sergeant from the Sharp TV series, played by the late great Pete Postlethwaite. And Mrs. Silvera's voice for Mrs. Wiggs heavily reminded me of Dandy Nichols, the Elsie Garnett character Until Death Do Us Part. Go and look it up. It's a fascinating watch. Why she did, I don't know. But I suspect that the writing and the performances of Rugg put me in mind of some old tropes about army sergeants, and a similar writing and performance by Carmen Silvera put me in mind of an actress or a character that would have been around at the time in 1966 and 67. What can I tell you? Just as another last thought, I seem to have them a lot. Did you ever read a William Gibson story called Johnny Mnemonic? It got turned into a Keanu Reeves a few years ago. This episode's title, The Dancing Floor, put me in mind of Johnny Mnemonic, as its key fight scene is on what gets called the Killing Floor. It's named for a Howling Wolf song. It's a boxing ring, wrestling ring, rigged to amplify the sound of fighters' footsteps. And yes, before you say anything, I know the two names really are talking about two different things, but it's just the one reminded me of the other and left me with one hell of a Howling Wolf earworm. Ho-hum. Given all of that, what did I think of this episode of The Dancing Floor? I've got to admit, I have enjoyed it. Yes, there are issues though. Yes, the way Stephen and Dodo get off the dancing floor, the way they solve this puzzle, the way they get to relative safety seemed obvious from the minute they walked in through the door of the ballroom. They get caught by one of the dancing dolls and have to swap over. They have to dance with each other to get to safety. It seemed obvious. Yes, the food fight between Wiggs and Rugg seemed a little bit too slapstick. But on the upside, Peter Stevens' introduction as the menacing Cyril was very well done, as was Goff's equally menacing performance as the Toymaker, and both Purvis and Lane, as the two main characters of this story, are very good. Frankly, yes, this is a light, fluffy episode in a light, fluffy story, but it's one that's still perfectly watchable, even if it's not perfect. With all of that said and done, I will leave that there, and I will hopefully see you next week when I watch the last episode, the final test, on Friday, the 27th of September, and hopefully get my written and video reviews up on the 29th. Please feel free to subscribe, please feel free to like this video, and please feel free to come back next week to see what I thought of the final test. I will hopefully see you then. Take care, be good, and to quote Patrick McGowan, be seeing you. Right, it's been a little while since I've done a footnote, if you will, although quite where this is attached, I don't know, apart from at the end. Whatever. There's a couple of points I wanted to raise. Firstly, I mentioned the stage, the red curtained stage, which is in the colour animation, and presumably a black and white version is in the black and white animation. It does not, from what I could see, appear to be in the telesnaps version of the episode. I possibly won't be able to confirm that until the BBC finds and restores and releases those missing episodes. As a second point, the china plates Mrs. Weeks has in her kitchen have a blue background pattern, stars on it, I think, and red Mackenzie trench TARDIS style police boxes on them. Red TARDISes, if you will. From the very little I know, there are or were some red police boxes in Glasgow, and there was a red Mackenzie Trench style phone box on the East India Dock Road in London near to the Blackwall Tunnel, and it was used by people reporting a fire in the tunnel to London Fire Brigade. It was very near, and I can distinctly remember going past it on family trips through London, going through the Blackwall Tunnel, and you'd see it. For a kid obsessed with Doctor Who at that age, a red TARDIS was quite something to see. And it's over there, Mum. Wow.